It's an insult to working people and to hard-pressed families who are trying to scrape the euros together to make sure that their kids have a decent Christmas in the middle of a cost of living crisis. And what does the government do? It goes and follows the example of Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng and lifts the cap on bankers' pay. It's a disgrace, in our opinion, and we will voice total opposition to it. I've written to the Oireachtas Finance Committee. The Minister for Finance, Minister Donoghue, is before the committee tomorrow to discuss a separate piece of legislation, but I'm asking that time be set aside in order to allow the Minister to make a statement on this issue and take questions from members of the committee. I also would challenge the government, put this issue to a vote in the Dáil. If you have confidence in this as the right way to go, put it down on the Dáil for a vote, and we'll see if you have the numbers in order to pass this. If the Dáil reflects the view of the people on this issue and the feedback that we as TDs are receiving this morning, it won't pass this measure. I also want to say a word as a Cork North Central TD, because constituents of mine whose babies died, the babies' organs were sent by CUH for incineration, and they've been waiting 2.5 years for a report on that, and they received the report on Friday. I have an opportunity to question the Taoiseach today, and I'll be using that to ask him a number of questions. They include, first of all, the human tissue bill that's before the Cabinet today. Does that include a clause which, if there were to be a CUH type situation again and a similar thing were to be done, that would be made illegal? I believe it should be illegal, and I believe the human tissue bill should have a clause to make it so. So I want to clarify that. And second of all, these families were told that their babies' organs had been incinerated in Belgium. It turns out in the report that they were incinerated in Denmark. Now, they have found this out 2.5 years after originally being told about Belgium. Why did the authors of the report wait until the report was complete, 2.5 years on, to let these families know that their babies' organs had been incinerated in Denmark? They should have told them beforehand. In not telling them, I believe that was wrong, and I'm going to ask the Taoiseach to indicate that he too believes it's wrong. So, there you go. CUH and bankers' pay. Okay?
First of all, in relation to bankers' pay, I think it is obscene at a time when so many people are struggling to pay for heating, to pay for food, who are really worrying. It is absolutely obscene that the government is catering to the top 1% of earners in this country, those on 500,000 euros, and is saying to them, you're going to be free to make €1 million, €2 million or whatever. This is being driven by lobbying by bankers. You know, this is the equivalent of Turkey's lobbying against Christmas. Of course they're going to say that. Of course they're going to say that if you pay them €1 million or €2 million, they're going to do a better job. You're going to attract the best possible talent. This is, from the government's point of view, about going back to normality, quote unquote. But we saw where the normality of banks driven by short-term profit, driven by people on pursuing bonuses linked to profitability, we saw where that led us. That led us into one of the biggest bank bailouts in the world, for which the public we're still down 45 billion euros. So we're against the drive to privatisation, which this is a part of, and instead think that the bank should be publicly owned, should be used as a public utility in the service of society, rather than running society in the interests of the banks and the top bankers. Secondly, we're going to have a debate and a vote this week on the Horse and Greyhound Racing Fund. That's a fund projected for next year of over 90 million euros. That towers over the funding for all of the sports in this country. Like, the core funding for all of the sports organisations is 15 million. That's for Swim Ireland, Olympic Ireland, FAI, GAA, all of those combined get 15 million, and yet the government hands over 90 million euros of public funds to horse and greyhound racing. We know that greyhound racing is an industry built on animal cruelty. We know that up to 6,000 dogs are killed every year. They're referred to as wastage because they simply don't run fast enough. We know now, in relation to the horse racing, that the vast bulk of that money ends up in the hands of people who are already multi-millionaires. We're clearly opposed to this. We're against the fence sitting represented by the amendments of Sinn Féin and the Labour Party, and instead we're against this funding continuing. We don't think the public should be putting the funding into horse and greyhound racing. We think there's much better things for money to be spent on. And thirdly and finally, people hopefully will have seen the primetime story, which was excellent, last Thursday about the apartment defects. One of the affected people was on Pat Kenny this morning. These are groups of residents that I've been working with in the Not Our Fault campaign. The residents who I'm talking about were very disappointed by Darragh O'Brien's answer on primetime, where he emphasised over and over again that we're going to help these people. From their point of view, this is not their fault. This is the consequence of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael governments implementing a system of self-certification, and they're not looking for help, they're not looking for partial assistance, they're looking for 100% redress. It's the only just, and it's actually the only workable solution. What they're looking for immediately is an opportunity to meet with the Minister directly this week or next, before he finalises his report to the Cabinet, to outline their experiences and to outline why they will not be accepting anything less than 100% redress. All eyes on Gavin.